Would you like me to bring a dessert now, Mr. McCoy?
Nola?
Yes, please. Yes.
All right. But in the meantime, could you bring us some coffee?
Of course.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Now, where were we?
Well, I was just saying that I thought this night would never happen.
I'm sorry to have worried you about that.
Well, it wasn't only me. I mean, it was Mom, Maureen, Tony. I mean, everybody worried. And you're part of our family now, so once the Reardon is sick or in trouble or something, everybody's there to help.
Thank you. I wish I had the kind of family life that you had.
Well, you didn't have any brothers and sisters, did you?
No. No, it was just my mother and I saw very little of her, actually, because she worked so hard to support us.
Well, you were born in Chicago, right? I mean, that's where you're from, because that's where Mr. Chamberlain is from, right?
No, actually, I was born in Mexico. You see, my mother had worked for Mr. Chamberlain as a secretary in Chicago for many, many years, and then his wife passed away. That was Vanessa's mother. The two of them became very close.
And did they love each other?
My mother loved him a great deal. But when she went to him, told him that she was carrying his child, he said there wasn't anything he could do about it.
Well, why not?
My mother was never sure. But knowing what I know now, I'm sure it was because of Vanessa.
Oh. So she took off and went to Mexico, and that's where you were born?
Yes.
Henry Chamberlain never tried to get in touch with you?
Well, evidently he knew where we were all the time because he used to send a monthly support check that I never knew about.
Well, why not?
Because my mother led me to believe he wasn't alive.
But you knew he was alive. I mean, you knew who he was.
Actually, Nola, I knew very little about him except that he was from Chicago and what his name was. And one day I was reading an American newspaper. And there was an article about a coming-out party for Vanessa Chamberlain. I went to my mother, I questioned her about it, and then I realized that my father was alive, that he was a successful businessman, and I had a half-sister.
Oh, my. That must have been really a weird feeling.
Yes, it was. Especially since I didn't know about those monthly support checks and thought all that time that he had deserted us and forced us to live the way we had. Well, I made up my mind to face him and tell him what I thought about him.
Now, wait a minute. You met Henry Chamberlain before you moved to Springfield?
Absolutely. After I read the newspaper article, I went to Chicago to face him.
And you told him that you were his son?
Yes. I told him I hated him for what he had done, that I'd never forgive him. When I think back on it, that poor man must have been devastated.
Now, wait a minute. There's just one thing that I don't understand.
What's that?
Why didn't he recognize you?
No, I took him by surprise. I stormed right into that office, and I told him exactly what I thought of him. I think the only thing he could have remembered was the language I used, the names I called him. I hated him a great deal.
Well, from what you've told me, I understand why you hated him, but, well, you don't anymore, do you?
No. No, when I first moved to Springfield, I thought I would, but when I got to know him, and as I grew to know him, I recognized a deep sadness, a loneliness in him. The more we knew each other, the more we would talk, and then he would talk about mistakes that he had made in his past, and how they haunted him, and how he'd hurt someone once, very, very deeply. I assumed that was my mother.
Is she still alive?
No. No, my mother died over a year ago before I first came to Springfield.
Oh. Gosh, I'm sorry. I mean, she must have been a terrific lady.
She was. She was. As a matter of fact, you remind me a great deal of her.
Oh, come on, you're just saying that because I had Stacy and I was unmarried.
No. I'm sure that may have been part of it. But you're as beautiful as she was. Warm, resilient, charming.
Oh, what was her name?
Stephanie. Stephanie Ryan.
Stephanie Ryan. That's a beautiful name. But how did you get your name?
McCord? Well, that's part of the mystery that I have to uncover on that dig.
So your name is Quentin Ryan?
No. Actually, the name my mother gave me was Sean.
Sean?
Sean Ryan.
Oh, Sean Ryan. That's a beautiful name. Brandy or something?
No, but you go ahead.
Oh, I don't know if I should have any brandy, but I'll have some. I thought Mrs. Renfield would be waiting for us.
I'm afraid she's still very angry with the way I spoke to her when I found out what she had said to you about Henry and worrying you about my going to Tangier.
I got an idea. Why don't we sit down? Oh, let's
Sure.
sit down by the fire.
Sure.
But let's sit down on the floor.
All
All right,
right.
hold this for a minute. Let me get the pillows. Off our new couch here. Oh. Okay.
No, here,
wait,
hold
I
this
can't-
and I'll help you down.
Oh, all right. Right, I'll hold this.
Oh,
Be careful. Okay.
there you go.
All right. Try this gracefully.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice indeed. Ah,
Has she always taken such good care of you, Mrs. Renfield?
from the first day I met her.
Oh, when was that?
Oh, I was a child in Mexico. She and her husband came to live there. They got to know my mother and I, and, well, we became good friends.
Well, what did she do for a living? I mean, what did he do for a living?
Oh, he was professor of archaeology.
Oh, so that's where you got your interest in archaeology then?
Mm.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, after they moved back to England, he used to write me and encourage me to go into archaeology. And so when it was time for me to go to college, I enrolled at Edinburgh, where he was a professor.
Well, did you live there?
Yes, I lived with them right after I left my mother and visited with my father in Chicago. I lived with him a long time while I was a student. Passed away.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry I didn't know. You mean he never got to see your success?
No,
Oh, I bet he would have been real proud of you.
I wonder.
Well, why do you say that? I mean, I'm proud of you, Mrs. Renfield's proud of you.
Do you know how much it means to me to have you say that and to have you and Stacy living with me?
Well, do you know how much it means to us?
You don't know enough. You and Stacy are my only family. The only family I've ever known. I'm sorry. Sometimes I drift off and go back to thinking about Tangier and what I may find there and that I may spend a lot of years in prison.
Well, I want you to know that, well, whatever happens, you know, that we'll always be here, waiting for you, Stacy and I.
This whole crazy business. That is the one thing I believe.
You tired? You want to...
No, I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
What were you talking about?
I was just saying that I'd wait for you forever.
I love you. I love you.
I love you. Now, you're sure you don't want to go upstairs? I mean, if you're too sleepy or something.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine. There's so much that I want to talk to you about.
Well, we can do that tomorrow. I mean, you know, we don't have to talk tonight.
All right.